Hello. Hi. Welcome to our third day of the 2024 Happy Challenge. This is our coaching, and it's actually pretty funny because today, one of the things that I want to talk about is eliminating distractions, and my day has been chock full of them. Absolutely full of them. Let me make sure this is working. Yeah, alrighty. So let's get all this in here. All right, we got people joining. Let's go. Okay, so yeah, one of the things I want to talk about is eliminating distractions today, and that's not how I wanted to start, but my day has literally been full of distractions. So if it's been flooding here in Maryland. I've actually had people like messaging me to make sure that I'm all right, and I am all right. But in the past 9 days, I've had like a lot of weird things happen with the house. We've had the heat go out, the hot water stop, the water need to be turned off. The in the beginning of the year, we had the whole front yard need to be excavated, and the whole what is it, like the water tubes changed, and we had to get the pilot light relit. It almost wouldn't lit, and then the basement flood. Yeah, it flooded, and it sucked. Like it just sucks. And right now I have somebody in my basement, and they are trying to figure out why the heater isn't working, and that was actually happening before the flooding. Yeah, it's a lot. It's all right. Thank you. But what's funny is, all day today, a lot of the things that I do involve audio and recording and video and needing to be, not just not distracted for myself, but for you guys too. I want to make a podcast or a pep talk or whatever where you don't hear like sirens in the background or people talking, because it takes you out of it, right? Sometimes it's really fun because it's just like that's life, but I don't want there to be something that lives on as a product or a piece of art that forever and ever is just not as good as it could be because I couldn't be patient, or the world couldn't, work with me. And that has just been all day. And one of the things that we're talking about today, the theme is enjoying, feeling and being able to enjoy our goals, our happiness, our lives, and being able to block out time to eliminate distractions. And I just thought it was really funny when I like sat down to look at my notes, and I saw that like eliminating distractions was one of my bullet points, and I was like, mm-hmm, and whew, it's difficult sometimes. And I'll tell you that I don't come nobody comes to any space better than anyone else. So, all right. So let's jump in. Let's jump in. I don't even have my water. That's how distracted this is. Give me 1 second, because I don't want to not have my water. I mean, everything's a mess. Everything happened like right as I had to go live, right? Like as the time was come to for 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. The food that we ordered got here, because if I'm cooking dinner, that's hilarious. And the guy showed up for downstairs. He was supposed to get here at 12. It's 6:30. The door's open. The cats are running around scared. They're handling it very well. All these technicians coming in and out. So I just want to let you know that Mama said there'd be days like these, and it's okay. It's okay. So we're gonna breathe together because I need it. Yeah. And we're gonna metaphorically close the door because I don't have a door, and everything in this house echoes, and that's all right. And we're going to be grateful for what we have. I didn't float away in the flood. I'm still here. And we're going to remember that discomfort is important. Yeah. One more deep breath. I'm glad you were able to make it for a live, April. Yay. Okay. I know that discomfort being important might seem counterintuitive to a challenge that's all about happiness and fun. But it isn't. It really just isn't. And I talked about that today. And tonight we are going to talk more about, well, actually, did you have any takeaways from that? What we talked about, like the discomfort element? We're going to talk more tonight about how to stay mindful and savor moments and how to plan ahead to make each experience the best that it can be with enhanced add-ons and how to reflect after each moment for greater clarity. That's really what we need right now. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, I think I'm saying that correctly, is a Hungarian American psychologist. And he says that being in flow is being completely involved in an activity for its own sake. The ego falls away. Time flies. Every action, movement, and thought flows inevitably from the previous one, like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved, and you're using your skills to the utmost. So essentially, our goal is not just to check off our happy goals so we can say that we did it, but to experience them. And when we experience them, that is to be in a state of flow. That state of flow allows us to be in a place of the ultimate enjoyment. Ironically, you can't really get to a state of flow if you're constantly thinking about it. Kind of like an orgasm, right? If you're like, I want to come, I want to come, I want to come, then you kind of won't. You have to let go and enjoy it, and then it comes. Abraham Maslow, who did more than just come up with a hierarchy of needs, said that there are these things called peak experiences or peak states. That's how he kind of talked about flow. I go into that much more in my enchantment and passion modules and masterclasses, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about them tonight. So a peak state is something that he believes only a self-actualized person can do, right? So there's that the pyramid, right? So it's like having yourself the safety needs met, and then as it goes up, you're able to become a self-actualized person. So he believes like you have to be all the way at the top of this pyramid to be able to get to that peak state. And if you were in a peak state, you were essentially in an altered state of consciousness or euphoria. Here's a quote. A rare, exciting, oceanic, deeply moving, exhilarating, elevating experience that generates an advanced form of perceiving reality and are even mystic and magical in their effect upon the experimenter. It kind of like sounds as if you're on MDMA or acid, even though you're not. He said that these were high points in life when they felt in harmony, when you feel in harmony with yourself and your surroundings, being filled with the purest kind of joy, a spiritual experience. He said that these peak experiences were most likely to happen during artistic, athletic, or religious activities, or when you were spending time in nature or during intimate moments with your friends or family. So what if your happy goal could get you to a peak state? Can you close your eyes right now and imagine what that might look and feel like? So one way we get the opportunity to be in flow is to prime ourselves for it. If you make mindfulness a ritual, you'll basically put your body, where's my mouth? Sorry. Look at my mouth. If you make mindfulness a ritual, you'll basically put your body in a state of understanding of what it's like to be grounded, connected, patient, and embodied. I feel like one day I'm gonna be famous and somebody's just gonna put together a compilation of weird things of me being like, what is in my mouth? Or really, like, what is in my mouth? Or nothing? I don't know. Okay, so how long does it take Mary to make a point? Longer when she thinks there's something in her mouth. That's not being mindful, Mary. Okay, so if you make mindfulness a ritual, you put your body in a state of understanding what it's like to be grounded, connected, patient, and embodied. And over time, this builds a skill, so it becomes easier. So when you're doing something like making art, dancing, cooking, or even having a picnic, that you're able to like breathe deeply, be present, and focus on what you're doing in that moment instead of being distracted, past or future tripping, or any other tricks your mind can come up with to decrease your level of saturated enjoyment from the nectar of this moment. When I was making my notes for tonight's lesson, a song I hadn't heard came on my Spotify, and the singer screamed, "The heart is a muscle and I want to make it strong." And that's it. For everything we do. The reason we meditate isn't to get good at having an empty mind. It's so we can enjoy the things we really love without distraction. The reason we do embodiment practices isn't so we can breathe and make noise and move all at once or be in touch with our emotions in that specific moment. It's so in the future we can go straight from what's happening in our minds and our bodies to take an action and understand it. So we don't have any dissociation or avoidance for our emotions, and we can do something about it. The reason we have a gratitude practice isn't to have a documented list of how lucky we are in comparison to other people. It's so that when we're out in the world, we can say, oh my gosh, look how lovely that is. The reason we practice role playing isn't so we get good at acting. It's so we get better at not holding in what we're upset about and sharing our thoughts directly to the person as quickly as we can without holding them in. The reason we try to trust again isn't to prove anything to anyone. It's so we can love again. The heart is a muscle, and I want to make it strong. So, I recommend practicing mindfulness. Does that make sense? You know? I think sometimes we get caught up in the logistics of why we're doing this practice. And we don't think about the why. You know, it's like you don't really stretch so that you can do a split. You stretch so that you can do, like, so that you can not really hurt your back in the future. You know? Technically. Well, I mean, you could have a different reason. You can always have a different reason. There's a million whys. But if you know your why, it's great. So I recommend practicing mindfulness in your life, and it will enhance your ability to get into flow. And tangible ways to do that are meditating, mindful eating, mindful showering, mindful dressing, being mindful while you're brushing your teeth, focusing on your 5 senses, walking and wandering, putting your phone away, focusing on the person that you're with, accepting the thoughts that come up through the day without judgment, waiting without distraction, like in a waiting room, you know, putting everything away, just sitting with your thoughts, having a gratitude practice, observing your breath, listening, watching, looking at your belly. Before you jump to do something based on a stimulus Like if you hear a notification or your phone rings or you see something or the doorbell, like what, anything like that, any kind of like thing that causes you to do something after it, pause and be like, oh, okay. Don't just be the burp burp reaction. Be the pause in the middle. Journaling, specifically about your thoughts and emotions. Gardening, yoga, setting alerts to breathe, to be mindful, having like a mindfulness totem that just reminds you to come back down. And then I also have a list on my website of 50 ways to live in the moment. But okay, I also want to talk about, well, let's go into some of your concerns. So Candace mentioned on the comments before that she said her discomfort is about not being coordinated and being afraid of hurting herself. So Candace's goal is about learning how to dance, specifically the shuffle. And yesterday we realized that one of the barriers to that is the part of the shuffle dance is like needing to jump. And that's feeling like a physical, needing to build up the strength to be able to do that jump. So we decided that would be a starting point, was to do some cardiovascular strengthening and muscle building so that you could learn to do the jump first and then go back to learn the shuffle, because it'll be easier to do that. So these are concerns that are coming after learning that information. So it says, my discomfort is not about about not being coordinated and being afraid of hurting myself. I'm reminding myself that coordination and strength come with practice. I'll start by finding an aerobic video that involves jumping and build up the actual dance lessons. 20 years ago, I went back to school for art. It was really hard for me to find my place. I kind of miss the discovery of all the media for creating. I miss the research part of creating. Okay. So there's two different elements happening here. A different part of your brain started speaking up towards the end. So we'll come back to that. So in terms of the logistics of the discomfort, in terms of coordination and strength, there's a safety part of your brain that's speaking up here, right? And you're also having like a mom manager part that's also speaking up, talking to that safety part that's saying, hey, we're gonna hurt ourselves. And the other part's like, but I think it might be okay, right? Like, I think that you'll do it. If you keep practicing, then it'll be okay. So the mom part can also say, hey, what would you do to make sure that you don't hurt yourself? So just keep asking questions. Like, let the different parts of yourself talk to each other. So if you are afraid of you hurting yourself, that's fair, right? It's okay to have these concerns and these worries. Some fears aren't completely irrational, right? Like, I think we both know someone who's scared of sharks, and that's not a completely irrational fear, right? That they could hurt you. There's a difference between being scared of aluminum foil and sharks, right? In terms of how much something could hurt you. So could you hurt yourself in terms of jumping around? Sure, a lot of things can hurt you. Are there things that you can do to take precautions in terms of making sure that you hurt yourself at the least amount or not at all? Absolutely, as well. So you could, you mentioned, I'm going to put a pin in this after I say it, but you missed the research part of creating. Lean into that. There's a part of you likes being a researcher. So what if you did some research about people who are getting into cardio and strengthening exercises for the first time in a while, and what are the common injuries that are a result of that? So then you take the necessary precautions and then you do those, right? So maybe it's about stretching specific muscles. Maybe it's about, I don't know, taking a protein powder, or getting a very specific mat, or wearing a weight belt, or I don't know. I know nothing about what I'm saying. These are completely random examples of things that I'm visually associating. I don't take any of these as actual advice, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm trying to create an idea of inspiration for what might be the examples here. So if you like researching, and even if you don't, this is a very helpful practice in terms of making sure. Yeah, great. So do those things, and then the safety part will concur with the mom part and be like, okay, great. And then you'll feel safer in this practice. And you're absolutely right about feeling like you'll build the strength and coordination. It's something that happens over time. And that's another thing of having your why in mind and imagining like what that Tuesday looks like out in the future, of you being able to do that shuffle dance down your hall by yourself. And you know, I keep seeing all the videos of like how they make each other glow in the videos. I don't know why that's the dance that they keep making each other glow for it, but like, wouldn't that be cool to videotape yourself and like make you glow doing it? Like, that would be so cool. That could be a cool part of your goal too. I don't know. But okay, so then we have this other part that says 20 years ago, I went back to school for art, and it was hard to find your place, and you missed the discovery of all the media for creating. So there's like another part here of maybe the long-term goal of having the desire to interpret, not interpret, but engage in, maybe, is it a community? Is it you participating in art in general? You know, again, this is about getting into the why element for you. So what about the going to school was the most fun? Was it you mentioned the research aspect and the discovery. So those parts are, to me, there's a P word that, word for someone who likes to learn begins with P. Not philosopher. God. It's like pillophile something. Someone who is obsessed with learning new things. File. Philomath. 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 Someone who loves to learn and loves the idea of learning. So a lot of people that I attract are like that. Like Operation Merriment was like that. You know, we just kept going with random ideas, and it didn't matter what it was. It was just something to dig our curiosity into. And that might be what the discovery and research part is for you. But then there's also a part of you that is interested in the actual acquisition of the fruition of creating too. So I only mention that because you're mentioning the school aspect too. And I know maybe for you that might not be something that you're interested in terms of people and location and things like that. So there could be an online element to that. There could be something where you are creating your own curriculum. You know, if you like discovery and research and learning, then there could be something where you are the one who is creating a curriculum. I made curriculums when I worked at the psych rehab, and it's not even that hard. You're really just kind of like thinking of subjects, and you say, okay, there's 12 weeks of this. I mean, actually, I'm constantly creating curriculums now. What am I talking about? I'm still doing it. But you think of a subject and then you break it up into like 12 weeks, and then I just had to submit them. That's the different thing. I was getting graded on them. And then you would like just say, okay, well, this week we're going to do this. This week we're going to do this. And you can break it down and be as like official as you want it to be. Oh, Mitzi wants to be a part of the party. Oh, you haven't come on at all this week. Oh. What do you think Candace should do? This is for Candace's coaching. Oh, she's talking right into the mic. Look at that. Well, that was special. Okay. You could make like some sort of idea for curriculums for yourself, you know, like, yeah, Mitzi says bye, and be like, okay, well, I want to learn these things. I want to learn mosaics, and you could do a whole 12 weeks on mosaics and different kinds of things that you're going to do each week. Or you could be like just brushing the surface, and one week you're going to do mosaics and another week you're going to do paper crafts. Or I know that you mentioned, because I know you mentioned that you wanted to do a deck, and that was paper crafts, so you could give yourself some sort of curriculum around that, right? And then it's kind of like something around how to create some sort of, like, how can you merge learning and discovering media with something that you're already working on, right? So it's like, how can you become the teacher and the student? I don't know. That'd be kind of cool. That's a cool challenge. But you can also, I mean, obviously just like enroll in art school. I mean, there's never been a better time for online classes, truly, if you don't want to go anywhere in terms of like a physical location. I know that typing on these things is not as easy, but if you want to ever type anything in and slower, and then I'll get back to you when we come back around. Love. Okay, so Melissa said, yeah, I love to learn too. It's very satisfying because you learn new skills, tools, resources, expand your mind and beliefs. Your world gets bigger. Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want to do too. Okay. Melissa, do you have anything? I don't, if you commented on, did anybody else add their things to the thing? I didn't see. No. If anybody has any answers to what their, to today's questions about, here, I'll just paste them in here. What are you worried about feeling uncomfortable with as you start your new happy goal? What's something you've done in your life that was new when you started, but you're good at now? And what's something you tend to distract yourself with, and how can you place a speed bump on it so you can advance in your happy goal? Or maybe, Candace, that's what you were saying was your thing that you did a long time ago that was frustrating, but you look back on it now. But still, I think what I said applies, because if you're saying that you miss it, then that can still be helpful. Because if there's an element of it that misses it, then there's still a place for us to find a space for that. Buying chocolate boxes to study the chocolate shapes and build them in clay. Love that. That's such a fun paper project that you have going. Okay, so if anybody else has answers to those questions, or yeah, I love the deck project. I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Chocolate shape decks. I love it so good. If anybody else has ideas for any questions really at all, this is your time to ask them because you're here live. And then I'm also going to go up because April mentioned something earlier about wanting to work on her Wreck This journal, and she's scared because she's a perfectionist. So April was mentioning that she wanted to incorporate more of like being part of her inner child and being more artistic and expressing her artistic side this year as part of her happy goal. And April, is this how you have kind of actualized what you feel like your happy goal is going to be this year of working on your Wreck This journal? Carrie Smith is one of my favorite people of all time, and I absolutely love this. And so you're saying that you're scared to work on Wreck This journal because you're a perfectionist. Okay, so let's talk about that. Do I have one on my bookshelf right here? No, not right here. Okay, so if you're not familiar with Wreck This journal by Carrie Smith, Carrie Smith is first and foremost a guerrilla artist, but she got famous for publishing a journal that has a bunch of prompts at the top of the page that say things like mail this page, or color this page in green, or like just completely random things. And it became a phenomenon. It became a viral situation because people were encouraged to literally damage the book. When I wrote my book, my first book, and published it, I had specific places where you could write in the book and told you to write in the book, because I hated the fact that people kept their books so precious and or felt guilty when they would write in books. So I wanted to demonstrate that not only was it okay, but it was necessary and encouraged to write in my book. And that you weren't hurting anything, especially my feelings, by doing so. So I love to see a book that has been damaged, changed, made imperfect. I think that a book that doesn't have dog ears and highlights and notes scribbled in the margins means that I can't prove that this was read. I can't prove that this was learned, taken on. I can't. This might as well have just been on the shelf, right? How I know that it was learned and felt and taken on by another person is to see those traces. How do we know that we were here to leave those messages from ourselves, just scratches on the bathroom door that say I was here? At the very least, maybe we can come up with something more profound and poetic, but does it matter? Is it different? I think that it's the ultimate example of perfectionism to worry about hurting something called Wreck This Journal. Wreck This Journal is purposefully titled Wreck This Journal. One of the prompts is to stomp on it. One of the prompts is to rip this page out. How are you going to perfect that? The point is to be reckless, messy, rude, crude, just crazy. The point is to be different, right? I think the only measure of which perfectionism could be measured upon Wreck This Journal is to completion. And I don't say that to force completion upon you. I say that because simply I do not think that it is possible by any other measure. To rip a page out, even, that one of the prompts is rip this page. And to do that, you cannot do that perfectly. Straight lines do not exist in nature. They just don't. So, what part of, besides completion, or is it completion, are you worried that it's not going to look as good as things that you've seen on Pinterest? Because there are some really cool things I've seen from Wreck This Journal. Are you worried that it's going to... It's okay, so it's scary to be messy. Okay. It can be. It can definitely be scary to be messy. Can you think of like a movie or a sitcom or something where, I don't know, the first thing that I'm thinking of is this episode of Modern Family, and I don't know if that's been seen by you or is relatable or whatever, but I'll explain the scene and maybe you'll come up with something on your own. The mom is very straight-laced and she does things by her own thing. She loves organization and everything, and I actually really do like that part about her. And she gets everybody together for their family photo every year, right? And this year she wants everyone to be dressed all in white. She wants everybody to be in a theme, and this year's theme is white. So she gets everybody out. all together. Finally, she corrals this giant family, and everybody's all in white, and she has, you know, comments about why people are wearing too tight jeans or too much cleavage or whatever. And she's like, ugh, this isn't exactly perfect, but fine. And then they get out to the yard, and they're worried because the sprinklers are on, right? And they send the little kid out, and they put him in like a poncho in his white outfit, and they said about to turn the sprinklers off, and he comes back and it's muddy, and they all have to like tiptoe out so they don't get any mud on their outfits, and they're all out there, and they're finally fine, and it's picture time, and the photographer's standing there, and he's waiting very patiently for this photo, and they're all standing there, and everybody's being really uptight still, and is this the memory that you want, right? Is this the memory where everyone's all mad and uptight, and or you're just gonna lie in the photo, right? You're just gonna be like, everyone's mad and upset, and then finally, I can't remember who starts it, but somebody, I think it's the grandfather, he puts his hand down in the mud because it was wet from the sprinklers, and he puts his hand and he just smacks it on the mom's belly, and then she has to loosen up because, oh my God, it's ruined. And you just have to lean into it. And then it becomes a mud fight, and everybody's having fun, and they're playing, and it's not these pristine white outfits anymore, and this like, family photo on the stairs, which frankly would have looked very creepy. But instead, it's this playful romp photo in the mud. And it's not perfect. And it's kind of gross. But everyone's smiles are real. And that's what Wreck This Journal is. That's what life is, you know? And there's a part of us, of all of us, the same way I was talking about, like, there's the safety part, there's the mom part, there's the manager part, there's the organized part, right? There's the organized part in all of us. Some of us didn't get a lot of it, like my boyfriend. And some of us got a big old Virgo moon part of it, like me. And it doesn't matter. But there's a little bit in you. And maybe there's a lot of bit in April, who says, I generally appreciate being clean and organized, and I want to work on that. And you know what? You don't have to work on that. That is the point of this whole thing. Happy 2024 challenge, merriment making, self-love, life. I want you to understand that neither of those things are wrong. Being clean and organized, the photo in all the white things, maybe it would have looked creepy, but you know what? Some people prefer that. I prefer the one where they're all fighting, or, you know, in mud, and they look happy. I do. That's what I'm here to demonstrate to you, that you can have fun in the mud. But I also want to demonstrate to you that she's the only reason that all of those people got together. That mom got them together. That mom organizes the planner. She gets people to places on time, and she cares about shit that if nobody else cared about, no one would have ever had a vegetable in their fucking life. There is a reason that a lot of people are demonized for being organized, because it's not the fun thing to be sometimes. And that's why I also want to celebrate the parts of you that sometimes get demonized, that sometimes are told that you're wrong or stupid or an asshole for. And you're not, okay? You're not. So maybe there are parts of us that have kind of come up and taken over, and we're like, oh, I'm feeling a gut check of a balance coming. I'm seeing that and I'm feeling some jealousy. I see that and I want me some of that. And you can have some of that. You can have that. You can have yes and both and yes please, some of that. Yep. You can have a picture in all white clothes, and you can have a muddy
romp in the mud. You can have both. You can take that picture first and then that picture next. It's going to be harder to do it in the reverse order. That's all I know. But your skills that are innate in you that say, I'm naturally really organized. I really like when my pens are in order. It really bothers me when they're not. I have OCD, honey. Like, I know that's like sometimes it's disordered. You know what I mean? It's like it's a problem when they're not. I called Matt a slut when he took my pen, and it was not nice. But you can be messy too. And there's a way to bring about messy without calling the clean and organized part of you like wrong or a bitch or to mom or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like you can be, yes. And you can put on different hats for both, or you can wear the same hat for them all. It doesn't matter. But that's really the energy that I wanted to bring to this whole challenge was your happy goals get to be whatever you want as long as they feel fun. And I don't want you to feel like you have to make a goal in reaction to something else. If everybody's telling you that you need to loosen up and you don't feel like you're too tight, keep it on tight as shit. We need all of the types. We need them. We need somebody who is going to keep shit on tight. And we need people who are dancing in the air. And there is an overvalue of balance and moderation. So if you are feeling like you want some tastes of new things, taste every fucking flavor and go all in. But do not react to someone's perception of you with a goal. That is letting someone's feeling and opinion weigh more than your own. Okay, so then tangibly with Wreck This Journal, maybe go through and, because you don't have to do them in order either, maybe that'll feel weird, but I would try looking for the one that feels like the least aggressive to you, you know? The one that feels like the least messy. Whatever, like maybe ripping this page out feels like the most insane one. Whatever that one is, whatever the most insane one is to the most sane one, try with the most sane one first and just get started. Build your confidence. Or go in the complete opposite direction and jump in the pool, jump at the deep end and rip the page out first and rip the Band-Aid off. There's like really 2 ways to do it, right? There's not 2 ways to do it. There's 102 ways to do it. But you know what I mean. Those are my suggestions. Okay, what else did I miss? And how many pages are there? Because that would be a good way to figure it out as a recurring thing for you. To like be like, okay, there's 100 pages, there's this many weeks, how many things could I do a week to keep up with my goal, just in terms of like going back to yesterday with planning. Okay, Melissa wants to think about the why. I want to be checking out new coffee shops once a month and doing some writing to pretend I'm a writer. Expand my mind, my thoughts, be more comfortable with being myself in a restaurant. Normally, I get my coffee and go. I love going with my family and friends to sit in the coffee shop, but not by myself. Okay, great. So this is going to be like an act of self-love with a solo date too. I love this. So I don't know if you ended up watching, Melissa, I'm pretty sure you weren't here last night, but I did talk about your goals last night a little bit. So if you didn't get a chance to watch the replay of the coaching, I did mention that in there for you. About like your why could also include like a motivation of, do I want to find coffee shops with like this is part of your why obviously, but I was saying like before I knew this, something about like, do I want to find coffee shops with like fun murals, or do I want to find coffee shops that also have like a very specific drink, or like do I want to find coffee shops that have cool music? And actually knowing this now, this is a helpful addition to that. And this goes on with what I'm going to talk about tomorrow too, with like these add-on things with like tangible boosters. But I think this is a cool way to feel like you're not alone on a solo date, right? Because in Sex and the City, they talked about like Samantha or whatever having like armor when she was at a restaurant. Like she was fine going out as long as she had a book or her phone or something. And this one time she like didn't bring her armor. And I didn't really like that expression, but I understood the indication. And I think the ultimate goal is to be able to be out alone and not need the armor, right? To be as comfortable with your quote naked self and simply just being the way that I was mentioning, like waiting alone in a waiting room and not needing your phone. And if you could like be at a restaurant, confident, alone. Yes, table for one. Dining alone, waiting for anyone? No. I'll need another moment. I think I will have why is the only food I can think cordon bleu? And I don't think I've ever ordered that, ever. That's the thing with like the ham inside the chicken. Is that? Oh my God, I don't even know. Why is that the food I can think of? Okay, that's what I'm imagining fancy food to be. I will have the cordon bleu and a root beer. That sounds really real for me, actually. Okay. And I will start with a salad, please. And can you bring me a lot of extra napkins? Because I'm a very messy eater. Thank you. And if I have a book, it's because I want to have a book. It's not because I am checking out of needing to have eye contact with other people or exploring the restaurant or being who I am or whatever. It's like the why here is important too. There's a difference between like, I need to be on my phone because I can't be in this room. A lot of times we started being on our phones, we started looking at stuff because it was unacceptable for us to try to interact. And now we can't interact because we don't remember how. We think we have anxiety and ADHD because we kind of developed it but if we were to take back all of these things, we would become people again. But we're so screen dependent, that's a whole other thing. Anyway, so that would be like a really cool goal, to just be like holding your own at a restaurant, even a cafe. But then you can find these other motivations and fun things to interact with at cafes and restaurants and coffee shops and whatever, right? So it can be like a little quest. Can you find the best pumpkin spice latte or whatever people drink? Or can you find a restaurant that has a cool thing that happens every Saturday? Can you find a really cool community board? Can you find a drink that's way better than Starbucks? Can you find, like, you can set up these like mini treasure hunts for yourself. That's pretty cool. Love the idea to look for specific things to enjoy while I'm on solo dates. I can relate to the screen addiction to escape boredom. Yeah. So think of like little mini missions that you could do too. And like I said, you can also do like things to do while you're out, ways that instead of consuming, you're creating. So you could do like random acts of kindness while you're out. You can give stickers to people. You can make stuff to deliver at these coffee shops. You can look for opportunities while you're there. Like, how could I add to these situations? What could I participate in here? And then you also mentioned like how you want to expand your mind. So how? What would be an amazing goal in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months? What would be the way that you want your mind to expand? Like what kind of expansion, in what area? Because if you can kind of like, you don't have to know what that answer is, but if you're like, I really would love to just like know more about philosophy, or I would like to expand my mind in the world of art, or you know what I mean? Like if you just kind of like declare an intention, then your ears will start to perk up and the vortex will start to bring you those kinds of things. But if you don't declare an intention, you might hear a song and that like quote will go by you and you won't grab it because you didn't have the filter for it. So declare your intention of how you want to expand your mind. And that goes for all of you. And for your grandkids, you're going to be doing a dance party each Friday to celebrate the week. Absolutely wonderful. Maybe think about a playlist for songs to go to, because maybe you'll run out of songs, or they won't like the songs, or maybe ask them for their taste in music so you can prepare. And tomorrow we're also going to talk about like tangible actions for bringing things on and gamifying stuff even more. Okay. Let's see. April says, I'll let you know what order I decide to complete the journal. Not sure on the number of pages. Still have to number them. Okay. Yeah, get the kids involved. Absolutely. If you tell them they're going to get really excited about it, they could come up with like little outfits. They could have like their dancing tutu. Okay. I want to also tell you before we go, keep your questions coming if you have any. But I'm going to end with how to enhance your experience with savoring, which is something that I teach in my pleasures module and those masterclasses. So savoring with the past is reminiscing. Saving in the present is just called savoring the moment, and savoring for the future is called anticipation. So there's 3 types of savoring. Experiences, which are sensations, emotions, perceptions, thoughts, and behaviors that are linked to the particular environment in which you are immersed, like sitting at the beach and feeling the ocean breeze while watching the sunset. And then there's processes for savoring, like connecting a process or connecting a positive event to positive emotions by like figuring out the different positive states. So appreciating a kind action from a stranger that you say is beneficial will create gratitude as a positive emotional state. And then there's responses, which are specific behaviors or thoughts that happen as in response to a positive event. So that's just like mumbo jumbo lingo. But then there's 10 savoring practices that I'm going to share 5 of them with you, and then you're going to have to take a masterclass to figure out the rest of them. But so if one of them is sharing with others, so that basically all of this is just to like help you remember, help you stay in the moment, help you be mindful on like another level. So like think about when in the office, when Pam does like, I'm taking a mental picture, that's what savoring is. It's just like different ways to do that. So you can savor through experiences, you can savor through like specific processes of like deciding something is something, and you can savor with like direct responses of this equals this. Okay. And then there's like 10 different ideas of how to do that. And here are 5 of them. So sharing with others, telling someone what happened. So if you tell somebody something that happened like as a story, then you're more likely to remember that thing and just like keep it in your memory. It's kind of like how a gratitude journal, which is the next thing, a memory building situation, a journal, a scrapbook, or a photo is a documentation of what happened. So you're more likely to remember it. Putting pen to paper is a way to ingrain something in your memory. Okay, so the next one is self-congratulation. So collecting all of your achievements. So that could be like praise or screenshots or um, diplomas or awards, whatever, and anything someone nice says about you. Okay, and then the next thing is sensory and perceptual. So focusing on details as they relate to senses. So being mindful of like, oh, this is happening and this smells like this. This is happening and it feels like this. So that's like not doing anything after the fact. It's actually doing something like as much as you can in the moment. I mean, you could do it after the moment. And you just need to be able to figure out what correlates to you, right? So, do you have what sense is the strongest for you, or what sense stood out the most to you during this experience? And then the last one that I'll share with you is comparing. So, how is this experience better? Compare this experience to a different setting. So, like, it could be the past, it could be what other people are experiencing. And that's kind of like gratitude, right? Like, technically, gratitude is understanding the lack of something or what someone does or doesn't have other than you. And by doing that, you are increasing your positive emotions in regards to something else. And gratitude is like the best type of comparison that you can do, okay? So that those are some ways to just like remind yourself to experience and savor something as much as you possibly can, to feel and be present in the moment, because as you're going through and actively participating in your happy goals, whether you are learning to dance, whether you are dancing with your kids or grandkids, whether you are writing or journaling in your Wreck This journal, whether you're going to a new coffee book or coffee place, you're going to want to do your best to try to remember how it feels and to be present. And I gave you examples of how to kind of like prime yourself for mindfulness and flow so that you're more likely to be able to experience it. And I think that it would be great if you could start practicing mindfulness practices so that your body's like ready for it, right? But these are other things that you can kind of try to do in the moment and or after the fact to document your experience. You could have a journal about your Wreck This journal. You could take pictures of it. You can post it to social media. You can have a senses journal where you're like, okay, this is the this all the things I smelled today in regards to my coffee date. Is comparison a good thing? So when it is so gratitude is comparison. All right. So counterfactual comparison is when we're comparing something to the past. Okay. So think about how if you are thinking about yourself in regards to your past self and you're thinking about how far you've come, you are 100% comparing yourself, right? If you're thinking about your evolution, that is objectively a comparison. That's called counterfactual comparison. And then, or sorry, I'm sorry, that's temporal comparison. If you're, the past is temporal comparison. So we're thinking about evolutionary personal development stuff. That's temporal comparison. Regardless, it's comparison. If we're thinking about like, oh, I'm evolving, I'm doing something different than I did 10 years ago or 6 months ago, like, and we're saying that that's better, that's comparison. If you're thinking about a setting, like, I moved and I love my new house. I love it so much more. I'm so excited about my new house. I got a new car and I love it. Tell me that's not comparison. That's counterfactual comparison. I'm sorry, I messed them up. And then if you are thinking about the fact that you have water, that you have running water, that's social comparison because you are saying or acknowledging somewhere in your mind, even if it's not conscious, that someone else doesn't. So comparison isn't good when you kind of go like, man, I fucking wish I had a yacht. Or I'll only be happy when I do. Comparison only isn't good when you believe that you won't be happy or you're not a good person or you're not enough when you do not have that thing. That's when comparison is not good. But if this whole idea that comparison isn't a thing, that it's the thief of joy, it's there is nuance to everything in life. And when we take these quotes, when we take these tote bag sayings and we do not explain them and we just don't do research or think about them or whatever, we rob ourselves of ingenuity, of our own genius, and of opportunities. So gratitude in and of itself, when done with thought, you're comparing yourself all day long to what you did have, to what you used to have, to what you couldn't not have. When you say that you're grateful for a really good cheesesteak, what are you really saying? You're saying that other cheesesteaks have been shittier. You're saying that someone else didn't have a cheesesteak today. You're saying that yesterday you didn't have a cheesesteak. You're saying that some people didn't fucking eat today. It's all comparison. Sorry to burst the comparison bubble. It's all about the why. Nothing is bad nor good. It's about how you do it. It's about why you do it. And if anything comes from the lens of I'm not enough, I will never be enough, I'm too much, I'm doing this because someone told me that I am, that won't last. And if it does last, it'll be your demise. Wow, that's awesome. It's a whole new level of understanding comparison and how it works with why and gratitude. Good. I'm glad. Compare away, my friends. Just don't do it with not believing that you deserve something. So tomorrow I'm going to get more into physical ways you can enhance your happy goal experience with like ambiance and clothing and more gamification and like the ideas of, you know, how like Melissa's grandkids could like put on tutus and stuff for their thing. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And we're also going to get into maintaining, reminding, checking in and all that stuff. So thank you so much for coming. I love you. And go write in your gratitude journals and compare the crap out of yourself to your past self, to other situations, to social settings. And I'm going to go see what happened with the heater and and eat the food that's probably cold now. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you for spending your time with me and you're paying attention, your most precious commodities of all time. And I will see you tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. You have to feel good to do good. I love you.